Good morning and welcome to the BizNews Daybreak. Today is Wednesday, the 22nd of April. I'm Kerry Lanigan. First up, our partners at Bloomberg give us the latest overnight world news.
President Trump indefinitely extended the ceasefire deal between the U.S. and Iran at the request of Pakistan. Trump also said the U.S. military will continue the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And the president said he was taking these steps until Iran's leaders could present a unified proposal. Now, this was a reversal from Trump's position as of Tuesday morning, when the president said he would resume bombing without a deal in place. Now, the ceasefire with Iran was set to expire on Wednesday. Earlier, Vice President J.D. Vance suspended a trip to Islamabad to resume talks after representatives from Tehran refused to attend. They cited unreasonable U.S. demands. Here is Jonathan Lieber of the Eurasia Group.
So there's ongoing back-channel talks between the U.S. and the Iranians, and there have been at least since the ceasefire began. And that's the talks he's talking about. I think that the meeting that we were expecting in Pakistan with J.D. Vance was largely symbolic, and I don't think it was likely that Vance was even going to get on the plane until he knew what type of agreement they were going to reach when he got there. And so right now, this delay is allowing for more exchanges of papers and more exchanges of ideas between the Iranians and the Americans. That would then empower Vance to get on the plane, get over there, sign a deal, and say, we have an agreement.
That is Jonathan Lieber, Managing Director and Head of Research at the Eurasia Group. Now, earlier in the day, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports is an act of war. Here is Bloomberg's Adam Farrar.
While the president obviously has come out already here and said that he plans to extend it, in to some extent for quite some time without putting a deadline on it this time, there is another party involved here, and the Iranians get a vote. And with the United States taking increasing actions to seize Iranian vessels, that there is this question of whether and how Iran will respond after the action over the weekend that saw the disablement and seizure of an Iranian cargo ship. Iran explicitly said that they would retaliate, although we haven't seen that as of yet.
That is Bloomberg's Adam Farrar. A small group of unauthorized users has accessed Anthropic's new AI model Mythos. Now, Anthropic said the users gained access through a mix of tactics, and they include using access one of them had as a worker at a third-party contractor for Anthropic and using internet sleuthing tools. Here is Bloomberg's Mike Shepard.
This does raise questions about, who these people were exactly, who gained this access. The person familiar that Bloomberg spoke with insisted that they were not doing this to wreak havoc. They rather accessed it through conversations on the Discord server about how to figure out a way to get into Anthropic's networks. They were trying to use paths that they previously identified for finding untested models and ways to get a look at a new technology ahead of its rollout.
That is Bloomberg's Mike Shepard. Now, Anthropic has already warned Mythos can be used for dangerous cyber attacks. Kevin Warsh, the nominee to lead the Fed, sat before the Senate Banking Committee for his confirmation hearing, and he pledged to act independently if he is confirmed as Fed chair. Here's an exchange between Warsh and Republican Senator John Kennedy.
Are you going to be the president's human sock puppet?
Senator, absolutely not.
Are you going to be anybody's human sock puppet?
No, I'm honored the president nominated me for the position, and I'll be an independent actor if confirmed as chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Warsh also said that President Trump never asked him to commit to any interest rate decision.
BizNews editor Alec Hogg sat down with Ruan Fund Management's founder, Sean Peche, yesterday for an investing masterclass. Here's what Peche had to say.
Well, look, that's absolutely right. So why doesn't everybody do it? Well, sometimes those risks manifest. Okay, so we were buying some software stocks last month. We not all, we did our work because some are going to survive and some we are going to have tough times. Now, if you bought software stocks and you got it wrong, well, your clients are going to look at you and go, but hang on, but everybody knew AI was going to disrupt software. So that's what are you doing buying software stocks? Okay, so people don't want to be in that position in case they get it wrong. And then it's like, well, hang on, you look, didn't you know that you didn't want to buy airlines? I mean, the oil price is high. Why do you want to buy airlines? Everybody knew airlines were going to fall, So it's a tricky thing. You got to be prepared to say to clients, look, we're not going to get it right all the time. We go where we think the value is, and sometimes we get it wrong. But what the key is to get it right more often than you get it wrong. And to win more when you get it right than you lose when you get it wrong. That's the key. And then you compound that through time. So it feels difficult, and it's like straying from the herd. I'll tell you a funny story. I used this analogy once, and I said, if you're we're all antelope out in the field, out in the savannah, and we can eat the grass underfoot, okay, but it's trampled. So you want to go and eat the juicy grass to the left. The problem is that the juicy grass over there is where the lions are lurking. They're hiding in the bush. And so I said, what you want to do is you want to wait until the lions have finished feeding. Okay, and then you go over there. And I was telling the story to this one friend of mine. He says, you clearly know nothing about wildlife, because I've got a client of mine who is a game ranger, and he'll tell you, even if the lion ate 5 minutes ago, if an antelope walks past, you can have another go, because he's not sure when he's going to eat again. So that's my point. The juicy grass is away from the herd, but we are herd animals. It feels safer to be in the herd.
Sean, you've given us a wonderful masterclass in investing, and thank you. That's the kind of thing, the kind of conversation I hope that people will come back to time and again. But where we are right now, mid-April, where is the grass the greenest, and where are the lions lurking that you need to watch out for?
We think we like Asia and select Europe, and you think about what sectors are out of favor. Healthcare is very out of favor. And energy's been in favor. So maybe you want to be careful about being in some of the sectors that are very much in favor, and go and use that as a starting point. And stay away from the popular stocks, because when the pawpaw hits the fan, everybody owns the popular stocks. Well, that's what people are selling to raise liquidity. And maybe that's why at some point Microsoft was down 26%, year to date. So it doesn't matter how big this company is, how wonderful it is, you can get trampled if you're in the wrong, if the herd changes direction and you're there.
So many of these stocks, though, have been running for a long, long time. The Magnificent Seven. Okay, Microsoft's had a bad bump, but Amazon has been growing in the last couple of weeks, again, because of new excitement, new ideas that they're putting on the table. When do you feel that it's the time to get off those trains? Or do you always keep a little bit on those trains while you're looking for more attractive propositions?
Well, the one thing we do is we pretend we're in cash. So with any stock we own, okay, and we say, if we didn't own the share, would we buy it today? If you were completely in cash, would you buy Nvidia today? Fresh position. And that often brings clarity to your thought process. You go, hang on, no, I wouldn't buy it up here, or whatever. Look at Netflix, down post the results. Look at Apple, changing CEO. There's always changes happening out there. So even if you thought Tim Cook, he's done amazingly. He's been there, 15 years, and I think the stock's up 20 times since he took over. Everybody was worried about Steve Jobs, and then Tim Cook did a fantastic job. But what now? So there's always changes, Alec, and I think a good starting point is, say, if I was in cash and I didn't own it, because there's a thing called, and it's behavioral finance, it's a thing called the endowment effect. You value companies you value what you own more than if you didn't own it. All right. So if you've already got Nvidia and it's done well, and you've been profitable and it's treated your portfolio well, you're very well disposed towards Nvidia. And so there's the endowment effect. So you might think, oh, I don't want to sell Nvidia. But if you say, well, pretend I didn't own Nvidia, would I buy Nvidia here? Assuming I have none of that history, you might say, ooh, I'm not so sure. I'm expecting the future to continue to be like the past. And now some people will say, no, but Nvidia is on a lower price earnings ratio than it has been historically. Well, remember, there's a very important point here. And that is, a price earnings ratio is your price divided by your earnings. If your earnings are very high, okay, your price earnings ratio could actually be lower. But you've got to be careful to put a low price earnings ratio on very high earnings. So there's more competition coming down. We've seen what Amazon's doing. We've seen what Alphabet's doing, the chips in China. People are coming for Nvidia's lunch. in the same way as the obesity drugs are coming for Novo Nordisk's lunch. So be careful out there.
In international news, Eurasia Group founder and president Ian Bremmer discusses the gap between talk of peace in the Iran conflict and the much more difficult reality of actually getting there.
I'm confident that we're in an off-ramp for an announcement of peace. I think we will get a second round of talks. I think they'll go forward. I think Vance will get there and he'll talk to the Iranians. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if on the back of that there's some progress. Both sides are pretty close on many issues. Trump really wants a deal. Trump is likely to announce one. But moving from an announcement to an actual implementation that then lets us feel like we can get traffic in the Strait back to normal, that's a lot of lifting that has to happen before then. There are a lot of ways that can blow apart. We're not close to that, in my view.
How important is that to the president? Outwardly, it's important for the Republican Party that the price at the pump not accelerate any further and hopefully come down. But I wonder if the president feels comfortable with crude oil in the $80 or $90 range. It certainly hasn't hurt the energy companies that I'm sure lobby him, and it's obviously been beneficial to Russia as well.
Well, he seems to feel more comfortable now than he did when he gave the State of the Union and was talking about gas under $2 at a station in Iowa. That's how he started his speech. Now he's saying, oil's a lot lower than it could have been. He heard $200, $250, $300, and it's under $100, and isn't that great? And that's because not only have prices gone way up under his administration and because of his decisions in Iran, but also because he doesn't have a mechanism to get them down. He knows that. So, he doesn't have a military plan that's going to open the Strait anytime soon. And in some ways, he's been slow rolling it. You've got a aircraft strike carrier group that's now going the slow way around the Cape of Good Hope. You've got other thousands of Marine Expeditionary Unit that's still on the other side of the Strait of Malacca. And so it doesn't look like there is an imminent military decision to escalate. Nor is there a plan that looks like it would get prices down. So at this point, Trump has to accept that come November, a big part of his efforts at the midterms are going to be underwater with affordability.
And finally, to tech, where our partners at Bloomberg take a close look at Apple's next chief executive, John Ternus.
Joining us first is Bloomberg senior tech editor Dana Wollman in New York, who helps lead our consumer tech coverage, which, of course, reported earlier this year that Ternus was the heir apparent. Mark Gurman has an extraordinary way of foreseeing Apple's future, as always. But who is John Ternus?
So he really has spent most of his professional career at Apple. He joined just 4 years after graduating college. So he really has grown up there professionally. He came there as a recent mechanical engineering grad. And as you said, really has that background on the product side. So he really is a hardware guy. And as we've reported here at Bloomberg, more recently has been consolidating power and responsibility on the hardware side, presumably in preparation for this CEO transition.
Overnight, Bloomberg published the full memos that Tim Cook and John Ternus shared with Apple staff. And I'm just pointing that out to our audience because right now there's basically a company-wide all-hands going on. So we're on the watch for any news that comes out of that. What else are we learning? The read on this from our reporting and the comments from Tim Cook is that he has a new role, but he's not really going anywhere. What are we expecting him to do?
So he's going to be transitioning to an executive chairman role and really focusing on diplomacy, both at a corporate level and almost geopolitical level, just given where Apple sits at the intersection of U.S. policy and U.S. relations with countries like China. So according to our reporting, at least, as much as John Ternus was ready to assume the role of CEO, wasn't quite ready to take on this more geopolitical role of negotiating on behalf of the company in a really high-stakes way.
That's your BizNews Daybreak. I'm Kerry Lanigan. Thanks for listening.